On this week's episode of Inside the Hive, are the Hornets a playoff team? LaMelo Ball's strong players continuing in the fourth quarters? Josh Green or Cody Martin? Who should start? And Tidjane Salaun progress report. How is the rookie getting on after his first two starts? Sam, welcome. We are back for another week of Inside the Hive. How you doing?
Yeah, man. Got some wins in between then. Some good stuff is happening. I'm here for it.
We said before the year, I think we're both kind of unified in this. We think this year is going to be like entertaining, fun is what we said. And like there haven't been many dead rubber games so far, right? Maybe Minnesota you can point to. That was tough. Okay, yeah. But the rest of them, they've been in the game at some point or the other, and there's been meaningful basketball being played, and like it's hard not to take for granted. There was not a lot of meaningful basketball played last year. Like the Hornets would be down 20 early, and then like both teams were just kind of like sleepwalking through the rest of the game, and it was really hard to take much away from that.
No, like impossible. So when you look forward, you want to look back, and it's hard to pull out anything from last season, other than bad stuff, because there's very few highlights amongst it. And when you look at some of the highlights from last year, it's like, well, how much meaningful basketball is being played, right? So it kind of skews it. But through 10 games now, it's a small sample size still, but it is a real sample size, from what we can get an idea of what this team is about. And to your point, like we said, this team is going to be fun. We don't know how good it's going to be, but it's for sure fun. And I'm loving the competitive fire, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Hornets are 4-6 right now, 9th in the East at the time of recording. Recording this after the Philadelphia loss. How that was a loss, I really don't know. I mean, they had so many opportunities to win that in overtime. I mean, they didn't play well for basically the first three quarters and then kind of turned it on for that late comeback. But I guess you could argue the Sixers should have put the Hornets away a lot earlier than they could. But I mean, what a weird game ending that Philly game was, with the LaMelo shot, which is one of the shots. Like that will be on the LaMelo Ball career highlight reel. That just will be. That'll be in the Hornets highlight reel when you look back at the past decade. That shot in the corner to catch the ball, turn in one motion, get your feet behind the line to make the shot while spinning and fading away. Great pass by Cody Martin as well, by the way. Put it right in the spot that LaMelo could kind of do that. That was, one of the best shots I've seen the Charlotte Hornets make in a big time moment. It's just a shame that it ended up not meaning anything.
Yeah, and for the Sixers to feel comfortable enough just to have Paul George sit out the overtime period, we're gonna handle this thing. Like we got this without Paul George. I mean, he's coming off an injury. He's on a minute restriction. I get that, but if they were really worried, he would have played. And I think there's an element of that with Nick Nurse, especially how that OT situation was managed. And then you got the whole, was it a foul, was it not a foul, on the reach-in. Excellent challenge by Charles Lee, by the way. Eric Collins he doesn't hesitate to throw praise Charles Lee's way, especially when it comes to timeouts during the free throw, or just making sure he uses challenges because you can't take them with you. And that was a clutch challenge. It went the Hornets' way. I'm not sure it wasn't a foul, but it went the Hornets' way for once.
Yeah, you see, I agree. When I saw it, I was like, damn, like he did get the ball, but then after he got the ball, he grabbed McCain. And for me, it was like the actual poke away was clean, but it's then the kind of grabbing and pulling, because he was obviously trying to get around him to get to the ball. That was, for me, like he fouled him after he poked the ball away, but it wasn't a foul on the initial poke away. But I mean, it was a good challenge in the end. The whole should it have been a layup fast break. LaMelo Ball said after the game he doesn't understand why it wasn't. I have some sympathy there as well. It was a tricky situation, but yeah, the Hornets keep finding themselves just like pulling themselves back in. They don't go away, and that's something that we are not used to. But 4-6, 9th in the Eastern Conference. That Philly game is probably one that a lot of people look at and go, they should have pulled that out. Like, if you look at who was on the court for Philadelphia, playing through Jared McCain and Gershon Yabusele at the end, and the Hornets have Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball available. Mm-hmm. Definitely not the Hornets' best night. There's not been the last couple of games offensively have not been the best. the hot start offensively has definitely cooled off. We said that hot 3-point shooting, which was propelling them early in the season, that's probably going to cool off at some point. I think we had like over one point we had over 7 people shooting 39% or better from 3. That's just not gonna continue. And it has slowly cooled off, and I think probably beginning to find more of their offensive level. I think they're 20th in offense, 18th in defense right now. But that's the good news. The defense has impressed, right? Held Indiana's quite low point total. Philadelphia, obviously missing some people, but held them. So defensively, they seem to be improving. Offensively, they seem to be struggling. And that's kind of strange considering they're playing like a small ball stretch 5 and they don't have Nick Richards, Miles Bridges. If anything, you think the defense would get a lot worse without having, especially like the 7-footers out there. But it's actually gone the other way.
It's actually insane. Like I would never expected it to go this way. With no Mark, with no Nick, and with no Miles, especially like that. That's a lot. That's a lot of manpower they're missing down low, and they're really. I mean, yes, they are missed. Like having them will be a good thing. When they're back healthy, but as of now, like I'm looking at the crunch time and those late game moments. I'm like, I'm not missing Miles Bridges out there, right? Especially with the way LaMelo was shooting, right? Like I'd be disappointed if Bridges was shooting the ball and LaMelo wasn't. So when the Hornets have the ball, it's like, all right, cool. As long as LaMelo's out there, I feel comfortable watching and something good's gonna happen. And on the other end, you have with Diabate just doing a madness on the boards every chance he gets. Like going back to the foul, he won the tip, right? Versus Oubre, you know? And so it's like Diabate is finding these small moments to shine in these close games where you would expect Nick Richards or Mark Williams to deliver. It's really wild that they got this two-way guy from LA who's really shown to be a really crucial role player with all these injuries.
Look, defensively, he's everything you want from like his ability to switch, his strength, his physicality, obviously the rebounding, which has been incredible, especially the offensive rebounding, but on both ends he's been good. If only he had like some offensive game other than dunking like in transition, like he would be a legit rotation player, but he just struggles on the offensive end to like make good decisions. He had like a nice kick out pass the other night. I think maybe to Cody Martin in the corner for an open 3, but a couple of times it's in like loose hands and just really struggles converting and finishing around the rim over any type of defensive presence. But he's still like, he was a freshman after he was drafted. He's been in the NBA a couple of years, but he's still on the younger end for a guy kind of swapping teams. I believe I want to say he's 21, 22. So there's still hope there. I don't think he's ever going to be a shooter, but he just needs to be able to kind of finish through contact and around length a bit better. But yeah, shout out Moussa Diabate. Who would have thought, like, he's been the Hornets probably like 3rd or 4th best player for 2 games in a row, which is pretty incredible from a two-way guy who had very little expectation coming into the year.
No doubt. I think if this keeps up, he won't be a two-way guy for long. Like he may find a permanent home in the NBA if he keeps this up.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to our main topics for today. First up, is this a playing team? Is it a playoff team? Is it a lottery team? I want us to discuss our big picture thoughts and takeaways on, now we've seen other teams in the league. We've seen the Hornets, 10 games. This is beginning to get sample size now where you can have some key takeaways. Have your thought before the season is they're going to be fun. Probably going to be low 30s wins if they stay healthy. And they're probably going to be just outside the play-in or maybe 10th seed. I believe that was your feeling. Was that accurate?
I thought their ceiling was 11, just outside the play-in.
Do you feel differently about that from everything that you've seen now and what you've seen from other teams in the NBA?
No. I would love to say like I think this team can really make a push, but given Milwaukee's struggles, given like Brooklyn are probably overexceeding expectations, definitely overexceeding expectations. Philadelphia struggling. My thing was always kind of like where's Charlotte's place in the Eastern Conference, because I think there's a lot of good teams in the East. I know some of those good teams aren't playing well, but they're not going to play this badly forever. And I think the Hornets are going to be pushed out and pushed down to a point where they're on the outside looking in, just barely, especially with the guys they're missing. It's going to come back at some point. Not having Richards, Williams, and Bridges, and that's hoping no one else goes down in the meantime.
Exactly.
Right. So they're on the edge of like something going on. Okay, I want to be positive, but like they're on the edge of something really potentially terrible happening from like a losing streak point of view if they get another key injury, because they cannot withstand another guy going down. I don't want that to happen, obviously. But that's kind of where they are right now. And that was my thought process with looking at the roster construction. Like, it's not a very deep team. And
really, yes, I think this team is a lot deeper than it was. Like, I actually think, cause you're getting good level play from like Seth Curry and Moussa Diabate, who are like some of the last adds to the roster. I think this team does have probably not quite. I think it's 1 to 7 depth. I think is worse than last year because you had like PJ Washington come off the bench, but I think they're like 8 or 10 to 15 depth is better.
So my thing was like the backcourt is super solid to the point where they can just bench Micic and not miss anything, right? Yeah. Like Micic is a quality NBA player, rotation player, and
we think he was last year. He wasn't this year. I don't know where reality is. If it was last year or this year, I'm not sure.
Either way, he's a warm body that could be used, and he's not. And the Hornets aren't really missing him, right? Maybe it's because the play wasn't there, but whatever. He's not around, and they still have Seth. They still have Trey. And they can dust off Nick Smith Jr. whenever they need to, right? But like my thing was with the front court, and Diabate stepping up in a big way was massive. But I didn't have a lot of faith in Mark Williams' availability going into the year, right? Diabate stepping in, huge. Okay, Taj Gibson doing some serviceable stuff, like it's huge. Like that's big. That's big.
When you look compared to last year, and it was Nathan Mensah. Yeah, it's a heck of an upgrade, right? True. Like, it was painful last year watching 6'9" Nathan Mensah out there trying to draw charges every single play.
Yeah, but like we're 10 games in the season, we have Tidjane Salaun starting games. Like, I don't want to be here yet. Like, I'm here. Tidjane Salaun's awesome and like really fun to watch and all this stuff, and I want him to succeed and all that. But I don't want to see him start in 2024. I want that in 2025. You know, when we get to January, February, March, that zone. And so that is a little soon for me that the Hornets are in this state.
So looking at the playoff teams, then we've got Cleveland, Boston, New York. I think they're all locks to be playing playoff teams in the top 6. Would you then agree? Like, who do you think are the next locks after Cleveland, Boston, New York? Would you say Orlando, even with a Banchero injury, or Indiana? Would you say those 2 teams?
Yeah, Indiana. Yeah, Orlando probably. If we're talking top 6 locks.
Yep, top 6 locks.
Top 6 locks. So yeah, Cleveland, Boston, Indiana, and I'll put Knicks in there for sure.
See, I think Indiana, yes. Orlando, with Banchero, no doubt, but they really struggled without Banchero. Then you've got this next group of like I think Philadelphia and Milwaukee will surpass Charlotte. Right. Like, both of those teams are talented enough to win 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, and I don't see the Hornets having that kind of long, sustained winning streak. I think they'll win games here and there that they're not supposed to win. I think we'll also see, like in Philly, they'll lose games that they're supposed to win. So I think both of those teams will surpass. I guess where I kind of see the Hornets is in this like group of teams, probably like similar to Atlanta, Detroit, Brooklyn, Toronto. And I know right now Toronto are 15th and Brooklyn are 7th. And you're like, what? But Scottie Barnes has been injured for the Raptors. The Nets are good right now. I do wonder if the Nets will go like heavy tank mode by selling people off at the trade deadline. The whole point of the trade they made this offseason was to get their pick back. So they're supposed to tank this year. And they are playing too well right now. They've been like legit competitive in all these games. And that's great. But I do wonder if that's what the front office wants there. Well, I think the ceiling is higher than 11. I think it would not shock me now from what I've seen if everyone comes back and they're able to stay healthy that they could end up being 10 or 9. But I agree with you. If I was to take like over under 10.5 for where they finished in the East, I'd probably take the over of finishing 11 onwards.
Yeah, because like to your point, Philly, Milwaukee, outside looking in right now, they're going to be in the top 10. right? It's just there's no way they're down there. So 2 teams got to come out of the top 10. So the contenders, right? Brooklyn, Chicago, Charlotte, Detroit. They're in the danger zone right now, 7-10 right now. Any of those teams can go any other way, anyway. And I would love for the Hornets to be in that mix. I just think it'd be really hard for them to close out. And we're gonna talk about this later, but we've been talking about it with the Hornets shooting themselves in the foot night in, night out. They're in these games, these close games. A lot of them could be wins. A lot of them should be wins if they come out, if they finished how they started. And they haven't been doing that. And that's a theme they have to fix. It may be when they're all healthy, maybe it is fixed at that point, long stretch of chemistry building at that point, maybe it is fixed. But I think it's going to be really hard to get into that mix. And I don't know, did you see the Bill Simmons stuff with Giannis? Basically,
yeah, I saw it.
Giannis to Brooklyn. Whatever. Like there is, whether it's Brooklyn or not, or Giannis or not, there's still that always, will someone ask out, and will that drastically change one team's trajectory and improve another one's? So there's always that wild card floating out there, whether it's Greek Freak related or not.
That type of thing certainly could happen. I don't think it's really likely to happen. I just, for me, I never project that as in like, oh, well, Milwaukee will finish out the playoffs because that will happen. If it does, obviously, but I will count that when it does. Let's move on to our next topic. Let's talk about, you talked a little bit there about starting games poorly and finishing games well. And one thing that you raised to me that you think is related to this is Cody Martin and Josh Green. Josh Green is the starter, but Cody Martin has finished games majority of the year. And you have a theory that you think this could be one of the things behind the Hornets' slow start and strong finish. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go through it. I'll try to keep it as high level as possible for folks listening. So I'm not into the mud when it comes to about throwing a bunch of numbers at folks. But this season, again, 10 games in, the Charlotte Hornets are second in the NBA in fourth quarter offense. They are 19th in first quarter offense. They get stronger as the game goes on, for the most part, right? First quarter, pretty rough. Second quarter, okay, they're like 12th in the league. Third quarter, 22nd in the league. In the fourth quarter, second. Like they end game strong, and so it's hard.
The start of the half and the start of the second half, right? That's where they're struggling.
Yeah,
and Josh Green is logging the majority of his minutes in both of those quarters, and so far, Josh Green's on-off numbers the season, he's a minus 24. Yeah. Okay, so the Hornets are minus 24 when Josh Green is on the court. They're plus 15 when Cody Martin is on. And that is, now is it causation or correlation, right? Is it just so happens that that's the way? But, I mean, the eye test does suggest, right, that...
I just want to just throw the other side on it, the defensive ratings. So first quarter defense and second quarter defense is the strongest. Sorry, first quarter and third quarter are the strongest for the Hornets. Second quarter, fourth quarter are weakest. So they're ranked. They have the 6th best first quarter offense, 28th best second quarter. Sorry, defense. I'm saying offensive and defense. I'm sorry again. Defensive rating in the first quarter, 6th. Defensive rating in the second quarter, 22nd. Defensive rating in the third quarter, 10th. Defensive rating in the fourth quarter, 15th. Now, the only positive net differential they have is in the third and fourth quarters. That's what I was trying to get at, where they're they're a winning team in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, where they're the 3rd best net ranking in the fourth quarter. And that's what Josh Green does. He's a really good defender, but offensively, it's not a lot to be desired there. And Cody Martin has been closing games. He's playing more minutes overall, but he's not as like the first quarter minutes, right? You just look at, all right, who's responsible for the poor net ratings or the poor starts in first quarters. So obviously LaMelo Ball LaMelo, Brandon, Miles Bridges is going to be among the mix, the most played in those minutes. Nick Richards is hurt, Grant Williams is hurt. Then it's Trey Mann, but then it's Josh Green at 5.9. And then Cody Martin is basically equal. And then when you get into the fourth quarter, the playtime really shifts, and that's when things are going well. So it may be time just to have that conversation of like maybe we should see Cody start more to mitigate the possible like damages, right, of potentially falling behind, and have Josh Green be more of a stabilizer than a starter.
Yeah, and like we're not sitting here saying that if you start Cody Martin, all of a sudden they're going to be great in first quarters. We all understand, right? These stats are noisy. There are so many variables that go into it. It is not that simple, but you have to try it, in my opinion. Like we reached the point now, 10 games in, every single person out here would tell you that Cody Martin has been more impactful than Josh Green. He is, I think, in my opinion, he is a better defender. I think he's a better creator. I think he's also like a better scorer, not a better shooter, probably not from the corners that Josh Green is, but Josh Green is so, like, I will say the box score does not do Josh Green justice, because when you watch the game, you see his impact, right? You see his energy, you see his, how he's disrupting other players, some of the kind of advanced reads that he makes, his super great help instincts. If you look at the box score, I mean, 22 minutes per game, he's at 5 points, 1.5 rebounds, 1 assist, half a steal, half a block. His shooting percentages are fine. Like from 3, he's shooting 43%. That's good. But outside of that, he's shooting 30%, 31% on 2-point attempts. Like he is just, if he's not shooting on open shots, he's not really helping you. And just the wider impact. The thought was that he was going to kind of get out and transition with that starting unit. That's why he fit well with LaMelo Ball. But I just think you have to try something at this stage, because if you start games poorly, there's a lot of evidence, and Steve Clifford spoke about this a lot last year, that once you're down in the NBA, like the reputation is that it's easy to come back in the NBA. But when you actually look at the stats, once you're down 15 points, like your win percentages is extremely high. And the Hornets, like you say, are always having to spend a lot of energy digging themselves out of a hole rather than ever being able to play with a lead. That's not something that they've got to do as much this year. So you point this out to me, but I'm completely in agreement. I think Cody Martin is the better player. I think the only reason it's not happening right now is probably a little bit of politics. Like Cody is happy to come off the bench. He's not bothered what he does. Josh Green's just come to the team after being on, an NBA final run, probably wanting him to kind of like buy into being in the city of Charlotte. I imagine there's some probably unspoken tension there, but look, if this team is serious about like trying to be the best that they can be, I do think starting Cody Martin would be the best option.
And I look at like Charles Lee clearly has a preference, right?
Your dog agrees with me too.
Because Cody Martin's a dog, all right? And I'm glad he's healthy. He's been sorely missed. Seeing him and Caleb on the floor at the same time last night is really dope. Like I like watching the Martin twins play basketball. Having a healthy Cody Martin is something we haven't seen in a long time. And the run he's on, when you talk about playing potential, Cody's one of those key guys that if he goes, if something bad happens to Cody Martin, I think it's wraps.
Yeah, the Hornets, one of the reasons they've been more competitive this year, and it's been really noticeable when you watch the games, they've had one of Josh Green or Cody Martin in the game at all times to essentially guard opposing team's point guards, or like any opposing team player basically under 6'8", who is a major offensive threat. And last year, that job was being left to Brandon Miller and Terry Rozier.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That is a major part of why they've been more competitive, is because what those guys bring on the defensive end. And like you say, you lose either of those, and all of a sudden you're going back to like non-specialist defenders guarding opposing primary offensive options.
Yeah, it's a place we don't want to be in again. So yeah, I mean, listen, I think this is a great problem to have. Also, it should be acknowledged, like having two really good options, right? Josh Green with the resume, I know the start hasn't been, has a lot left to be desired there, but we know we have in Cody Martin, and we've seen what Josh Green can do at a high level, and having both those guys on the roster, and having the choice, being able to choose between them or running both out at the same time, like it's a viable thing to have right now.
Yeah, I think they should look at it, and I think it's a big decision for a first-time head coach to make this early in the season with key veteran players, and it
did
might
with
upset
Miches.
dynamics.
He is
right?
like, he sat Miches down, you know, and
You're absolutely right. He did.
and he was bigging him up the other night, or I guess last night, as we're recording this. Talking about his professionalism throughout all
Of
this.
course.
Like, I love the, hey, listen, man, you're so professional, but you're gonna sit on second row of the bench. The second row kills me. Like, that is such a go sit in timeout thing. Whenever they cut over there, he's in the. I was like, oh, these promote him, like send him on, give him at least a chance to come into the game.
Charles Lee's just overall positivity about every single thing of the Charlotte Hornets it's incredible. Like,
yeah.
When you compare it to Steve Clifford last year, who used to sit there like going on these like 8-minute rants post game, you can see now maybe that wasn't so popular with the players. But just Charles Lee, whenever you ask him anything, even if like the answer is bad, he finds a way to find a positive out of it. And I think a lot of the players have said like he's like that. He's a very positive influence. But these are the hard decisions, and I think I said it in the summer. I think you should start Cody Martin. That would be my pick. I thought he was a better player than Josh Green. Green's just not shooting the ball at high enough volume for me to make it like a big difference. Like Cody Martin's at 37% right now, and I think he could be shooting it even better if he's in that starting unit.
Yeah, we've seen him go on runs before, like some crazy runs. Like back when he was like fully healthy, he was shooting 50% at one point. Not like it's obviously not sustainable. I'm not saying he's going to do that again, but he's capable of going on those multi-game runs where he's really lights out and on a good volume. And Josh Green's not that type of player where he's going to have that crazy volume.
Should we be worried about Josh Green? About what we've seen? Like, let's ignore this. Should he start? Should he not?
Yeah.
Just like what fans expected from Josh Green when they traded for him. Have you been disappointed?
No. Just because I look at him as, when everyone's available, as being probably the fourth or fifth option out there at all times. And so I just
but not everyone has been available, and he's like even lower on that option list, right?
True. That's a good point. I was thinking like my expectations going into the year. So when you're out there with Taj Gibson and Tidjane Salaun, you would hope that 6-year, 5th-year veteran would take the reins a little bit more, step up. Like we saw PJ step up. It was one of PJ's best attributes as a Hornet, of like wearing the role player hat. And then when LaMelo or Rozier or Hayward were out hurt, he would step up and he would have his highest point totals came when those guys were hurt, right? Josh Green, I would love to see some of that PJ Washington energy where if there's room, like there's room at the table to eat and he's not really taking any bites. And I would love for him to step up a little more. But yeah, I just personally, I'm not terribly disappointed in it so far, but I do believe Cody Martin should start over.
Yeah, I understand giving a period of grace, right? Adjusting to a new team, a new city for the very first time. I understand that. I will say, like, this is it for the season. I will be disappointed. Like, I did my season stat predictions back in the summer, and I had Josh Green for basically the same number of minutes he's playing right now, but I had him for 8 points, 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists, over a steal, just over a steal, and like 0.3 blocks. And he is basically halving almost all those numbers, or like 35 to 40% down on all those numbers. And I felt like those are pretty reasonable. Like they were actually pretty much either in line or slightly down from his averages in Dallas. And this is a team with less talent than in Dallas. So you'd think he'd have a bigger role to play. So I still think he is valuable, and I still think he feels like they needed this type of glue guy player. Another one for Cody Martin when he was injured. And like we said, one so that you can basically rotate in and out. So I still think he has value and he's a net positive, but I was expecting a bit more offensively from him. I thought he could take up that opportunity. But I mean, we'll talk a little bit later about maybe why he's not getting as many shots with LaMelo Ball. But I have been disappointed so far about the just total, I guess, productivity, even though I do think the eye test does a better representation of his real impact than looking at box score numbers.
Yeah, I think you're going to be disappointed nightly Looking at Josh
Like, if
Green's
you don't
top
watch the
scores
Hornets
only.
and you tune in, yeah. If you don't watch the Hornets, how's Josh Green getting on after that trade? You'd go, whoa, what's
Is he playing?
happened?
Like, what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah, like what's going on with Josh Green? And it's not been that level of concern, but it's been like, could do a little bit better there. You open that three, just ended up driving it, and then trying a really hard layup attempt, and yeah. So Cody Martin over Josh Green. You heard it here first. Inside the Hive, 10 games in. Let's shake up the lineup.
Let's do it.
Next up, LaMelo Ball. Wow. What is it not to say about LaMelo Ball? Currently leading the league in fourth quarter scoring, currently second in threes made per game. I believe one of my preseason predictions was that he would finish top 3 in that category, so he is on track for that right now. I have to say, Sam, I found it really hard to adjust to watching LaMelo Ball this year. Like, he makes 5 incredible, unique plays every single night that I haven't seen before. And then he probably makes 2 or 3 incredibly terrible mistakes that you're like, how can a player with such an incredible skill level and feel for the game and IQ do that?
Yeah.
And then normally rear their heads in fouls or turnovers and can be in massively key moments on both ends. And it's no doubt that the positivity massively outweighs the negatives, but I always have to feel like I'm adjusting to how I analyze basketball watching LaMelo this year. And we'll get into some the usage stuff and the role he's playing, but he's throwing up 18 3-point attempts a night.
Yeah.
It's just a different sport that I'm watching. It's bizarre. How have you found watching him this year?
It's so I've enjoyed every second of it, the good and the bad. Obviously, it's to your point, it's more good than bad. I want to be very clear on that, because LaMelo has been stepping up in a massive way, especially with all these injuries, and even just guys playing poorly or having slow starts. LaMelo's been covering for a lot of guys through these 10 games, and for him to almost crack 40 last night, hit a crazy big shot, and come up with the game, what could have been a game-winning steal. Like that, all that has to be savored and kind of and appreciated, because we haven't seen it for 2 years. And it's here now, and I hope it's here to stay. I've seen no signs of it going anytime soon. LaMelo has been playing without any minute restrictions, as far as I can tell, freely.
His only minute restriction is his own foul rate. That's his minute restriction.
You're not wrong. And you know what? Credit to him too. I know we talked about it last week about the fouling, which obviously has always probably gonna be part of the conversation this season with him. But I believe he had no fouls in the second half. I believe after picking up 3 in the first half.
Yeah, and not only did he pick up 3, he picked up 1 going for an offensive rebound. 1, it was like a fast break. He was the last man back, and he just quite aggressively swiped down. It was an on purpose foul, which I get the whole no easy layups, but again, it's something that you leave Josh Green to do.
Right.
You don't do the no easy layups when you're a player who's in foul trouble. You're in the offensive guy who this team desperately needs. But you're right, he did. Second half, he really improved that self-discipline, which is good to see.
Yeah, and that development, that maturity is everything, because without him on the floor, it's a problem. So, or at least not being able to go to him is a problem if he's disqualified for having too many fouls. But no, LaMelo's incredible. He's been sniffing on a triple double basically every night. Kind of is always kind of part of the possibilities. Really filling up the stat sheet like you'd expect him to. And the shooting is crazy. It's actually insane. I remember when he was 11 threes a game at one point in his career. I was like, this is too much. Now he's 18 the last 2 games. I'm like, you know what? Shoot some more. Let's just shoot it, bro. Because who else is going to take these shots on the team, right? And so until everyone's back, I don't need him to try to get Miles Bridges ready, because Miles Bridges ain't there. So shoot the ball. I don't need him trying to get Mark Williams or Nick Richards touches, because they're not there. So while those guys are out, I'm cool with LaMelo just going green light all the time. And then hopefully drawing double teams and creating more looks for Brandon Miller and others.
And it's such an interesting evolution because when we saw LaMelo Ball in his first 2 years, I never thought he would be the guy who, like, you have a offense solely built around his scoring. For me, he was like such an incredible passer. He would be like, yes, he would shoot and score, but he would be someone who, like, his creation would be like the thing that would really drive it, and he would get everybody involved. And it's actually become quite a ball-centric offense, like you said, partly down to the injuries. But the Hornets this year they are bottom 5 in passes, assists, and assist rate. Like, this used to be a very high passing team in those first 2 years. I remember they were like leading the league in assists, top 3 or 5 in passes. The ball does not like skip around anymore. It's like go screen, drive and kick, and they just wait for that tiny like half split second for someone to delay, and then someone fires away from deep. It's very much like that Boston Celtics like offense, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot less ball movement. What that also creates, you hope, is less turnovers, because look, the more you pass the ball, the more you drive and kick, there's chances of people getting deflections and you dribbling off your foot and all these other things. It also is probably the reason why they're not getting to the free throw line a lot, the Hornets as a team. Like, there's been a couple of halves now where I think they've not got there in the whole half, or just a couple of times, because they aren't really like, they don't have guys who attack the rim. Like, Miles Bridges was the only one, and LaMelo does it. He's the only one. But I mean, outside of LaMelo, it's a lot like Grant Williams, spot up, Brandon Miller, more of a spot up threat. Trey Mann has done a lot of his damage from the mid range and from 3. And LaMelo's usage is up to 38.5%, which is second in the NBA right now, behind Giannis. And that has increased every year from a rookie. He was 28% as a rookie, 30% usage second year, 32%, 35%. He's now at 38%. Does it look too much to you?
No. At this state of the Hornets, no. Because I don't, even when Bridges was there, I didn't want Bridges shooting. Outside of that one game, I was like, oh no. Every time Bridges pulled up for 3. You know, unless it's Brandon, like there's a few guys that feel comfortable taking shots, especially from distance right now. LaMelo's definitely one of them. And while this team is shorthanded, I'm more than cool with him handling the ball. What I would love though is for him to not hit the ground so hard. I think last night he had 2 really hard falls, and I'm not worried like I was in the past when he hits the deck. Like, it's not Anthony Davis level where like he's slow to get up and you're like, oh no, he's limping and like all the stuff. It's not like that, and I don't want it to get to that point. And so if you could limit that to some degree, that'd be great. But otherwise, no, I'm cool with him handling the rock, because there's not many guys I want doing it else right now.
And like what I said earlier, it's just taking some time for like my basketball mind to adjust to seeing it, because you're not used to seeing the Charlotte Hornets with a guy who is like the second highest usage in the league, because the guys who have those roles are like the creme de la creme of the league, like the very top players. It's the Giannis, Luka, like Embiid. Those are the guys, Pete, Harden, Westbrook. Those are the guys who had like those type of usage percentages. And none of those guys have ever been on the Hornets. So that's what I mean. It's just like taking some time for me to adjust. I'm not saying, this is not me like subtly trying to throw shade. I'm just saying, like, I'm having to be like, well, actually, for the Hornets, that probably is okay for him to be taking 18 threes and to chuck up like a bunch of heat checky threes, because if he doesn't, you pass it around, and you're getting Cody Martin with the ball with the shot clock on his back. And do you really want that? So it's just taking some adjusting. It's weird, right? Like, I went through all the players with the that same usage or above over the last decade, and here's the total list: Giannis, Luka, Embiid, Trae Young, Westbrook, and Harden. That's it. No, and LaMelo Ball right now, if you were to sustain this, have the highest usage. No more than 2 players have ever done it in one season and had the usage this high. So what we are seeing is like pretty historic. From the Hornets perspective, it's blowing everything away. But I do think, like you say, when people get back, I would expect it to be dialed down a bit. It looks exhausting for him. Do you not think?
Yeah.
I feel like every one of these games are excruciatingly intense for LaMelo Ball. Like, he's all these questions about how competitive is he can blow those away. Like, he is
Mhm.
desperate to win these games, but he's almost like playing like their playoff games every
Yeah.
single night, which I love, but it also freaks me out for like burnout and injury. And maybe he does like need to just dial it back a tiny bit later in the year when other people are there to take to some of the reins.
Well, some of these games are so close at the end. They do feel like playoff games because all
Yeah.
right, they've been slowly ratcheting up the intensity throughout the game, and then you get into those late moments, and you're 1 or 2 possessions away of making something happening, and yeah, it. I don't know how sustainable it is to keep up this level of intensity, but especially in the fourth quarter, because it just can't be. It's gonna be hard. I don't say can't because like I don't want to rule out possibilities here, but it's gonna be really hard to keep this up. So I don't know if it's Brandon Miller taking a bigger role. That's probably what's gonna have to be, right?
Well, you could argue, and this is my other thing.
Okay.
Is LaMelo Ball's high usage role inhibiting Brandon Miller's growth? Because there has been some more Brandon Miller like struggling to get involved in the offense. He came to life late against the Sixers, but and obviously they had that great game against the Pacers where they're both fantastic. And I think that's the winning formula that everyone wants to see. But since Brandon Miller's got back, I think he has been, apart from that one game, he's been solid, but there's a lot of LaMelo Ball having the ball. And Brandon Miller, is he getting that? It's a different role for him last year in the second half of the year where like he was getting the ball all the time. Is that a concern for you?
No, because I think he has to learn. I mean, this is it. This is the reality of it. LaMelo's gonna have the ball a lot, and so Brandon Miller has to learn how to thrive with that, right? And I think it's in the Hornets' best interest for the reverse to happen at some point. But for now, for Miller and Ball to have very limited time playing together the last 2 years to learn this and then develop the other half of it, like the other side of the coin, where Miller is the ball-centric one and LaMelo is off-ball. Like, I think if you master this, then you can move on to the next kind of look. But the way LaMelo's playing, it's hard to argue anything else at the moment. And then maybe Miller can find some more opportunities as a slasher with Bridges out. But yeah, I think right now this is fine for now. It's fine for now. I think it's something that we could definitely revisit in a month or two.
And Brandon Miller still is getting up to speed, isn't he, after that glute strain? Like, I think it's understandable for him to be a little bit slow. And you look at the stat line from the Sixers game, like, what was wrong? It was like 22 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. But if you watch the game, like, you didn't feel him out there as much, and you felt there were large periods of time where he was pretty quiet out there. So I think it's one to keep an eye on. I think you're right. We can't be overreacting too early, but it is one to keep an eye on. I mean, I'm also interested if Ball is going to be forced to kind of pass the ball more as other teams start, like, sending 2 to the ball, start showing on harder. Because, like, you give him a slither of space and he's firing it away and shooting a good ball. I do think, like, his actually assist to usage percentage is way down this year. He's taking a lot more shots and getting a lot less assists. And I imagine at some point some of these defensive schemes are going to flip that and try and force him to be more of a facilitator and make the likes of Grant Williams, Brandon Miller, Trey Mann, make those guys beat you rather than LaMelo Ball. So it'll be interesting to see if he can adjust with that or if he kind of would look to force it under those types of defensive coverages.
Yeah. He's the fact that he's getting 5 free throw attempts a game right now. I keep that up, dog. Like, keep that up. That is huge. That is
some great rim
massive.
attacks. Yeah. There's been some really good foul drawing. I agree. Okay. Let's move us on to is that our last topic? I think it's our last topic. Tidjane Salaun. Look, he started 2 games in a row. Didn't think we'd get to see that. Certainly in November. I'm going to go first in terms of what I've seen. Look, offensively, the shot hasn't been falling recently at all, really. But I'm not really too worried about that. I'm pretty confident in his shot. Like, whenever he takes a 3, I'm pretty okay with how that looks. Other than that, offensively, it's been pretty rough. Like, whenever he has to put the ball on the floor and make a decision, I would say it's a roller coaster, but there's not many ups on the roller coaster. It's just like danger for for turnovers. His processing, his understanding of the game. And that's why Charles Lee's put him in the starting lineup, so that he doesn't have to worry about that as much. And he can just focus on basically defending and shooting. I will say his defense has been pretty impressive. If you look at the synergy right now, some really impressive numbers on synergy. So he's ranking basically as excellent as or good or very good, defending spot ups, pick and roll ball handlers, which again, for a guy 6'10", right now he's allowing just 22% shooting while guarding pick and roll ball handlers. In isolation, he's only allowing 39% shooting, which is pretty good as well. Sorry, that's 33% shooting. So defensively, I've been really impressed. He does not foul at all. For a 19-year-old rookie, it's actually incredible how little he fouls. Like, if you think about the rest of the team, he is in the 100th percentile for foul rate. He's like a 1% foul rate, which is just crazy. Now, part of that is he's yet to have a block this year because he just doesn't jump to try and block the ball, which is where a lot of guys will pick up fouls. And he doesn't reach a turn as well to try and be disruptive. Although he definitely did have one block and the box score haven't ticked it because I've recorded the block. But the box score says he's not had a block this year. I think he's had one, maybe two. There was another play where I thought, oh, he might have got a second there. But he's definitely listening to the mantra of defend without fouling. Like, he just runs everywhere with his two hands up.
Yeah.
It feels the whole time.
Yeah.
And it works. Like, he is able to be a positive defender without being a guy who takes a bunch of defensive chances. It's like the opposite of Kelly Oubre.
Shout out to Kelly Oubre. Real quick, by the way, Oubre, Caleb, do you count Kyle Lowry as a former Hornet?
No.
Does it count? But
I've forgotten all about that, so you said it just then.
It's a former, got a decent, I mean, Harold's not there anymore. But there's like a weird pipeline from Charlotte to Philly going on last few years.
Yeah, what have you thought of Tidjane then? Obviously, difficult situation from thrown in the deep end. Have you been impressed, disappointed, satisfied? Where are you at with Tidjane?
So, I am satisfied with Tidjane Salaun. What I love about it is that he is continuing to play. He didn't get a run and then disappear. He's on a steady stream of minutes, night in, night out. Now, I know there are injuries. We'll see how he's used when guys get back.
Yeah.
But I think with him, it's only experience. Like, any and all experience right now is a great thing for him because I think his confidence is unshakable. I'm not worried about that at all. Like, even if he shoots poorly and on a start, I'm not worried. I don't think he's gonna care. I think he's ready to play ball the next night. I like the defense from him, to your point, and I feel comfortable with the shot from the corner, especially. But minutes, the minutes, the exposure, all that is just investments into the future with him, and building chemistry with LaMelo Ball and others. It's a good thing. So far, I'm cool. I'm cool with Tidjane, like right in the middle. Not as fun as it was in preseason, but it is still a good thing, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the stats and you'd be like, oh my God, he's been horrible. Right.
Yeah.
21% from three, 40% from the 2-point line, effective field goal percentage of 39%, 3 points, 4 rebounds. But when you actually watch the games, let's put it this way. When you used to watch the games and James Bucknight and JT Thor and Kai Jones were in the game, other teams were going at them. They were making a ton of mistakes on both ends.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't play team-orientated basketball effectively, and they couldn't impact the game positively. Even though he's not shot the ball well, I've never gone and said Charles Lee needs to take Tidjane Salaun out of the game here. Yeah, go on.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, because like with those guys, I always felt like with Jones and Bouknight especially, it felt like, all right, how long is it going to be before they mess up and don't play for 4 games?
Mm-hmm.
With Salaun, he's had back-to-back turnovers, right? And he's like, all right, cool. He'll learn from that. He's not going to be like benched or punished for it. And we're gonna get more of him the next night and the night after and the night after while these injuries are happening, right? So I think as a viewer, I feel comfortable and like I'm not projecting him walking on eggshells like Booknight might have during his run, where you make a mistake, you're not going to see the floor in a few games. I don't view that side. I don't get that type of energy watching Salaun play like I did with the 21 rookies.
Yeah, and I mean his defensive versatility is super impressive. He guarded Miles Turner against the Indiana Pacers. Like he started the game on Miles Turner, a 7-foot stretch big, and Salaun is a power forward who can do that. And Miles Turner had a really slow start to that game. He's switched on to guards, and he's done a really good job there as well. As I mentioned in the synergy data before, like holding, I think it's at 22%. I actually misspoke. It was 18%. He's held guards on pick and roll. So like he's able to guard some of the bigger guys. He's able to switch onto some of the smaller guys. He's playing a low usage role. Like say the turnovers, the shot. I think that will improve. No one thought he was going to be on the court playing major minutes with the starters at this point in the season, but they're executing with him out there. And that is the most important thing rather than the box score. The rest of the stuff will, like, I'm confident the shot will come, the rebounding will stick. The turnovers might always be an issue, if I'm being honest. But he will get more comfortable and the rest of that. But I think he's executing pretty well. I'm pretty satisfied. If you told me Tidjane was out there, I'd be thinking, God, they'd be getting killed every moment he's out there. Teams would be targeting him. There'd be defensive breakdowns. There'd be offensive breakdowns. And I feel like he's played his role in the right way. Probably just hasn't quite got the outcomes that he would want just yet. He's got to stay confident, though. Like you said his confidence is unwavering. I think Tidjane said that after, or someone said, I saw a quote, I think it was from Miles Bridges or Grant Williams. Then one of the games, Tidjane stopped shooting after he like missed a couple. And so went up to him after the game and was like, you have to keep shooting. Like, you have to do that. Don't let that last missed shot affect you, which I think we saw in preseason, that approach. It was like fearless. Mm-hmm. And now we got into the bigger games. I do wonder if like there was a little bit of confidence issues going on there, but I hope not, because I think he's doing a pretty sterling job. He's been a part of good competitive basketball. Probably another reason the starts have been slow in the last couple of games as well is Tidjane being in there ahead of guys like Grant Williams.
Yeah, I still think he's going to, in our preseason preview, I said that he's going to record a double-double. I still feel very confident in that. Yeah. Almost had 9 rebounds the other night. Or he had 9 rebounds the other night. Only 2 points. Got to get the other half of it, but he'll get there.
All right. Well, that's everything for today. Sam, anything else? Anything you're looking forward to this week, Hornets basketball-wise? We've got a little bit of a gap now, don't we? Was it Orlando? Orlando. Is that Orlando. At the weekend, right?
Orlando the 12th. And then...
Oh, sorry. And then there's a gap.
Yeah. Then we got the sinking Bucks. Yeah, the Cavs, the Nets, and Detroit upcoming. Real, honestly, real good like measuring stick as we go through this, just to get a better idea what this team is. Those are some good tests, especially Brooklyn.
Can I make a prediction?
Honestly. What's up? What you got?
I think Mark Williams we'll get an update about Mark Williams before after the Orlando game. So you've got that, was it like a 4-day gap of no games where they'll probably have some practices between the Magic and Bucks game. My prediction is they'll provide a Mark Williams update by Saturday.
So update could be
this isn't an intel thing. This is just my prediction. This is not me knowing something that I'm not telling people. This is just me looking at the schedule. I think you could have looked at this and gone, you know what? Let's wait until that little Philadelphia-Orlando road trip. Let's wait till we've got that 4-day gap where there'll probably be a couple of days of practice and they can maybe work him back in. That's what I'm wish casting for.
Oh, like he's going to be back involved. I thought you meant like we're just going to get some news, good or bad, about Mark Williams. Like, I think back involved in a positive way. He might not be available to play, but it might be like he's returned to team activities or something like that. You know, during that, when there's 2 days of practice or 4 days where they'll have lots of time to run through stuff. I'm hopeful. I'm wish casting. Yeah.
But it would seem a sensible time if he is close to doing stuff to start trying to embed him back into the program.
Yeah, because on the broadcast last night, they said it was a year ago where he had that 24 and 20-point game or whatever. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. That was a really long time ago. Mark Williams needs to come back soon.
Longest current inactive streak in the NBA, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough.
Mark Williams. That's it.
That plus the playoff streak, you don't want both in the same franchise. You gotta diversify. You gotta get some better streaks going on here.
Yeah, and his quote on media day of like, "I'm not injury prone. I don't like that label." It's a hard label to shake when you are leading the league in inactives for a long period of time. It's not aged great, that one, unfortunately for Mark. But look, yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing him back here.
Yes, Sam.
All right, well, that is everything for this week. We will be back next week. We'll have the Magic, Bucks, Cavaliers. They will play a little prediction over the next 3-game.
We got sample. We got some Emirates Cup, right? Some of these games are.
Yeah, Orlando. It's the first game of the in-season tournament. That's right.
Special court. Let's go. Let's get it.
I'm gonna say that they're gonna go. Do I want to be this guy? I'm gonna say they're gonna go 0-3 in the next 3.
So
I think Milwaukee are up backs against the wall. The Magic on a 2-game streak.
There's also
and the Cavaliers.
There's always weird ones. Like those are big wildcard games.
Absolutely. The Cavaliers game, I actually want the Cavs to be undefeated because, like, I think that would be a fun game. Like, I think the Hornets might get roasted, but just having the chance to go in and stop a streaking team, like those streaks can always end on like random nights.
Yep.
Like that, I think that would be a lot of fun.
I'm just, this is gross to say, but I'm just really looking forward to that Detroit game. After holding 3 L's against Detroit last season, which is outrageous, by the way, going 0-3 against the Detroit Pistons in last year's season. That's unforgivable, no matter how many injuries happened. Getting it back, chance to go 2-0 against Detroit on the 21st. Here for it. Here for that.
Well, Detroit just bullied the Hornets last like couple seasons, just like out hustled, out physical them.
Yeah, that game's
that's one thing that's not. That's one thing that's not happened this year. Like, not once have I gone. Yeah, the Hornets are just being out like hustled and are soft. Like, and I think big part of that is I think Nick Richards. I think his play before he went out. I think a big part of that is Josh Green and Grant Williams, their impacts, and Moussa Diabate as well.
Oh my God. Give me some Diabate versus Isaiah Stewart. I'm here for it, man. Let them fight.
Yeah. All right, Sam. We're good to catch up. I will speak to you next week.
Sounds good. See you then.